Walk us through the ups and downs for Bitcoin over the last 7 to 10 days.
Consolidation. I think it's backing and filling its gains. You mentioned how high it would get up to around 14,000 recently. It's pulled back to just above 9,000. It's just basically retracing the big bear market from 2018, but it's went too far too fast. It's up about 200% on the year. The significance is the broader market, like the Bloomberg Galaxy Crypto Index, is up only like 60%. So it's Bitcoin breaking away from the pack, and right now it's just backing and filling.
So, Spencer, is it a safe haven or is it just like any other asset?
Sure. I think longer term, Bitcoin will absolutely be a safe haven. I mean, as it grows up the adoption curve, we see Bitcoin kind of evolving as it goes. So I think right now it's kind of in this intermediate state right now where you really have to think about, well, what are the risks and how severe are they? So I think that when you have looming risks of monetary devaluation, things like this, Bitcoin certainly looks very attractive. And I think that was a large driver of the recent run up in price. But when you think about really severe crises taking place, a liquidity crunch, another global financial crisis, I think that Bitcoin will struggle to do very well from a price perspective. Now, I think it'll continue to work well from a utility perspective in that, you know, Bitcoin can withstand bank closures, et cetera, and can still continue to function very well. But again, longer term, I think it's going to continue to evolve into that safe haven status.
So you're saying don't buy Bitcoin now? Is that what you're saying?
I think Bitcoin's going to be worth a lot more in 2 to 5 years from now than it is today. You know, the exact price trajectory over the next 6 months is TBD. I'm not convinced that we have a full economic crisis on the horizon right now.
All right, so Mike, meantime, we've got the EU scrutinizing Facebook's Libra. We've got competitors emerging to Libra. We've got, Binance trying to create a competitor to Libra. What do we know about those plans?
Well, every time I hear of a new stablecoin attempted to be launched, like the latest from Binance and for Libra, to me, it creates a greater disparity in Bitcoin and the rest of the market. It makes Bitcoin become more like digital gold because, as Spencer said, it's so unique. It's no one else's liability, and it separates from the pack. Those other stable currencies are what's really needed because basically most of the other cryptocurrencies don't really do what they're supposed to. They're not going to be used for day-to-day peer-to-peer transactions. Bitcoin is more like gold, and it's becoming more like that. As far as scrutiny, I think it helps Bitcoin, increases the pushback on some of the I guess the term I've been using is the gaggle of 2,400 or so other cryptos. Like gold is unique among commodities.
Spencer, how is this whole Libra situation impacting the broader market?
Sure. So, I think that a lot of Libra's partners and other large financial institutions, tech companies, et cetera, they've been taking a wait-and-see approach to cryptocurrency as a whole and to Bitcoin in particular. But I think that Libra has really kickstarted things and that they've said, we no longer can take a wait-and-see approach. We need to start being proactive because if we're not, someone else will be. And so I think we're seeing a lot of large financial institutions and tech companies that are working on initiatives behind the scenes to either offer access to Bitcoin or in other ways embrace cryptocurrency.
What's the over-under on whether Libra actually is ever launched?
Remains to be seen, but I think the concerns are so disparate, in terms of it's too private to it's not private enough to it's too open, it's not open enough, that I think it'll be very difficult for them to thread the needle of all of the regulatory concerns. And this really circles back to the burden of asking for permission instead of asking for forgiveness. And one of the reasons why we're so constructive on startups in the space that can get out there, offer a product, win over users, and then kind of ask for a little bit of forgiveness later once the utility is demonstrated. But I think Facebook's in a tough situation for that.
Right. Is Facebook really the company to be asking for forgiveness later? No.
Right. Exactly.
Not right now.
Not right now. Yeah.
So, Mike, talk to us about the dynamics as, this Libra stuff plays out. You've obviously got a lot of volatility in the markets, the whole China trade situation. What are you watching for some sort of signals as to how the crypto market in general is going to perform? Well,
volatility is a key thing. Volatility in Bitcoin is virtually guaranteed to reach new lows. And if you look at like 180-day volatility, the low in 180-day volatility was around 40%. That was from October of 2015. That marked the bottom in the market and it took off. But with more and more vehicles coming on space with backed and futures and all other ways to people to get involved in Bitcoin, that volatility is virtually guaranteed to get suppressed, which I think is what it's doing now. It's put in a pretty good low for the year, good good supports around 8,000, pretty good resistance around 20,000. It could be stuck in that range endlessly, which should push volatility low, which makes it much more like gold. To me, that's what's happening. And the key thing I watch is transactions and addresses used, and those things that really signaled bear markets last year were bullish earlier in this year. Now they've really curtailed. It says to me we're in extended hibernation in the price of Bitcoin.
Spencer, where's the crypto market a year from now?
Well, I think that we're going to see a lot more users of Bitcoin. We're going to see more nodes that support the network, more miners processing transactions. But the important thing between now and then, and a year from now, is that we have a halving in the new issuance of Bitcoin created. And so that will create a little bit of a change in the stock to flow ratio here. And I think will drive price a little bit higher.